hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, and again, hopefully the light is fine. I feel like the sun at one place, I'm like, it looks great in the camera, but then it's hit me in the eye. So we're just, you know, if the lighting changes, bear with me. But hey, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about fan fiction. No, this is not a video about what fanfics I read. So sorry, that is not this video. But this is about fan fiction that become traditionally published books. So this is not about the history of fan fiction. This is not necessarily about all of the authors that you know and love who were previously fan fiction writers. That will come up. But this is literally about fan fiction works that are being edited, changed, or as an author that I'm going to mention, Victoria Aveyard, called the process filing off the serial numbers, if I have that right, to become its own original work and then published, like traditionally published. And there are very popular iterations of this already and more coming. And so in November, I think, or December, I'll link the video below while we still have TikTok. But Victoria Aveyard, she is a young adult author and who is a proud lover of fan fiction. She made a video on TikTok, the one I'll link below, and it made me think, and I've been thinking about it for a while, and so I kind of put together my own thoughts, wrote down some of the things that she said, and I kind of just wanted to discuss that here, and of course I would love to hear your input. So that's what this video is going to be about. Sometimes I can't tell about the lighting until I'm editing the video, and I'm like, wow, that's bad. So we're gonna go with it. Anyway, so it's not like I'm the only person who has noticed this. If you're in fanfic spaces, then you know that there are fan fictions that were changed, modified, stripped of the original intellectual property that they were based off of, and then published as an original work. Obviously, fan fiction is something that a fan writes of a certain IP or intellectual property, and they write their own story. I mean, there's literally fan fictions of everything from Star Wars, A Song of Ice and Fire, or Game of Thrones. The show 911 on ABC is like in the top ships on AO3. There's just so many. What is it? Steady is a big one. I think Steve and Eddie from Stranger Things. Like anything, they do not have to even be in the same scene together in a story, in a movie, in a TV show, and there may be a fan fiction for it. Or you can write it if it does not exist. So anyway, some popular ones I'd like to mention first off that most of us know about were 50 Shades of Grey. Started off as a Twilight fan fiction. The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. I was looking this up online because I can't remember. I know that it was a Harry Potter fan fiction, but people are saying mixed things on Reddit. Some people are saying that it was a Draco and Jenny fic. There was a Draco trilogy, but then also people are saying that it was based on one where it was a Ron / Jenny. If you know, it / means in a relationship, and if you read the Mortal Instruments, you'll understand. But anyway, it was a Harry Potter fan fiction. Okay, upon further review, it appears that it was a Ron Jenny fanfic that Cassandra Clare wrote that was titled Mortal Instruments, but apparently it is not at all similar to the published Mortal Instruments, just the same title, and then obviously there's the like kind of incest trope that's in the Mortal Instruments. But yeah, I was on Wikipedia and it had like her post from LiveJournal where it was posted, and I'm not gonna get into there's a lot of things in fan fiction, but anyway, apparently it was based on a Ron Jenny fic. Ali Hazelwood, who wrote The Love Hypothesis and has several other romance novels, is in the Raylo fandom. Also another author whose name is slipping from my mind, but the Hurricane Wars, I heard that author wrote Raylo fanfiction. Now I'm not sure if that was a Raylo fic changed into a published book, or if they were just in the Raylo fandom. And apparently ones I didn't know who were also in the Twilight fanfic scene were Mariana Zapata and Christina Lauren, also used to write Twilight fanfiction. And I think somebody said one of theirs, I don't know if they wrote together, if they wrote separately. I don't know the evolution of them, okay? This is important for a little bit later in the video, but it's important to note that a lot of these, like even 50 Shades of Grey, the ones written by Christina Lauren and Mariana Zapata, even if they were Twilight fan fiction, they were modern AUs or modern alternate universes. So they weren't very fantastical, if you will. They kind of used just like the characters' names and maybe how the author like wrote their relationship. I didn't read them, but I was just reading more things saying that a lot of those were already modern AUs, so that made it easier for them to move into writing contemporary fiction, if that makes sense. But there's just a lot of authors out there who have written, may still write fan fiction as well as traditionally published. So anyway, in Victoria's video, because she is a lover of fan fiction, she says she has a concern because more and more are being picked up by traditional publishers. So the newer ones to come in 2025, there are 3 that fall under the Draco Hermione. What? Yeah, that is her name. Draco and Hermione fandom, Dramini, that are going to be traditionally published. 2 are fan fictions that have been taken down and are being transformed into their own original work. And one is Manacled by Sinlin Yu, that's being turned into Alchemized, and the other one is The Auction by Julie Loves Bitka 8 is her fanfiction name, but you also may know her as Julie Soto. She has other published romance books, but that's being changed into Rose and Chains, I believe. So those 2 are like literally taking this story and taking out the IP and making it their own. The third one, which I can never remember the name of, is allegedly not the fan fiction. It is just a fan fiction author, and it has similar tropes to what the fan fiction was. So the fan fiction was Draco Malfoy and the mortifying ordeal of being in love, and the traditionally published book is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. Still very inspired. Dramini inspired, if you will. So those are 3 big ones coming out in 2025. Oh, you know which one I didn't mention? What was that? After by Anna Todd? Wasn't that's who them boys is? Rest in peace to that one. One Direction. That was a One Direction fanfic that became a movie. Anyway, so you see, it happens. So anyway, Victoria was saying her concern is that publishing obviously is a machine that wants to make money. Hello, capitalism. And they look at fan fiction as big sacks of money, like, ooh, dollar signs, because it already has a built-in fandom. But she thinks there are some concerns with that. So first, before I go into the cons, I think these are pros, in my opinion. There are a lot of great writers in fan fiction. A lot of people who are just like, I love this pairing so much and I enjoy writing, and maybe they weren't great at the beginning or maybe they always were good, and they are just really talented writers in fan fiction. There's a whole wide range of, yeah, we can tell you wrote this on your phone at 2 a.m. but I'm still eating it up, to, oh my gosh, put this in the Louvre. You know, there's levels to fan fiction. So I just think that's an inherently good thing. There are some really talented people, and if they get picked up by traditional publishers, that's great, because we need more great writers. Okay? Another is something that may come up in the con section, but it is a built-in fan base mostly, is that if you have, which with these 3 fics that I'm talking about have, they're like some of the highest clicked on fan fictions in that fandom. If you already have a built-in fan base, then that's great for the author, for the publisher, for everyone involved, because those people are going to want to support that author. If you love the original story, you're like, I'm gonna read this one that you changed it into. And also, because fan fiction is free and authors cannot charge money, they cannot receive money for these stories they write, them becoming a traditionally published author is a way for you to financially support them if they've been giving you amazing stories over the years. So you're like, oh, hell yeah, I am giving you coin because you have changed my life with these fanfic stories that you have written. So I think that's a great thing right there. It's kind of like, at least for maybe the first book, built-in success or guarantee of sales. And the third thing I wrote down is, so I thought I had a third in my pro column, but that really belongs in my con column. I'm not trying to be negative here, but if I think of another pro, I'll circle back to it. But so in the cons, and I put a question mark, does this ruin fandom? That's very obviously, that's being hyperbolic, right? But if more authors who are fanfic authors are being picked up to be traditionally published, does that encourage more people to get into fanfic writing as a path to trad publishing? I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but the beauty of fan fiction is that the author is a loyal follower, lover of whatever IP, and they want to create more stories or different stories that we didn't already have. And so does that produce as good or as, wow, just throwing my pen, as dedicated as, you know, just like down bad, amazing, obsessively wonderful fan fictions? If you are like, yes, I like this ship, but I'm hoping that it gets eyes on it and I'm popular so that it gets turned into a traditional book. That kind of takes away the love of fanfic. You're supposed to be writing, I don't know, supposed to be whatever. I'm tired of putting caveats and adding in little things. Like, if you're just going to come at what I say with bad faith, so be it. I'm tired of like adding a little every time I say something. I was like, no, I understand. Like, do you know what I mean? Anyway, the purpose of fan fiction is people who love the source material or like the source material but wanted these people together, or there are genfics, but a lot of it is relationship-based fanfics. And they're like, I want to explore this more, or we didn't get enough of it, I want more of it, or these people were never in the same hemisphere in the story and I want to put them together. And it's just passion and love that drives their stories, instead of, I hope this becomes popular and I become traditionally published. Obviously, and here I am still doing the things because it's just built in. Becoming traditionally published is difficult. So I understand this maybe seems like a more feasible path to becoming traditionally published. But really, fan fiction is like, the story I want doesn't exist, so I'm going to write it, unless I want to write this story because I want people to read it. I want to become popular, if that makes sense. I've also seen on TikTok like people who are like, I have this idea, would you read it? I have this idea, would you read it? And in my heart, I feel like you shouldn't care. If you like the idea, just read it and just write it, and somebody will read it. Like, somebody is gonna read it. Somebody is gonna read it. Trust me. Especially if you use the tags correctly on AO3 and they filter and they're like, bam, this is exactly what I was looking for. So like, if you want to write it, just write it because somebody out there wants to read it. So anyway, ruining fandom. Does that do that? More authors becoming traditionally published? Does that just is a different incentive for people to write fan fiction? Editing Jessica here, so excuse my appearance. But something I wanted to add in also about the potential ramifications to fandom or fanfic in general is, especially when they are very popular fics that are being taken down to be transformed into an original work. I worry that it could open up criticism to the fanfics, and like, fanfiction is a gift. It's not here to be critiqued, reviewed, rated, added to Goodreads or Storygraph or Fable or whatever. It's not for you to give the author feedback. It's not like it's not a book that you paid for or that was gone through editors and all of this work and put out for purchase and consumption. And so I worry, especially with some of these popular ones this year, that will just open up critique to people being like, well, I didn't like this in the fanfic anyway, and they did this better in this. So that is worrisome to me, and just opening up critique of fanfic in general. So if you didn't know, don't rate, review, critique fanfics. Like, you talk about it with your friends, all you want, but like on public platforms. And also stop adding fanfics to Goodreads or Storygraph. Don't do that. They're not a published book. They are a fan fiction. Okay, thank you. My next con was, this is going back to Victoria's video. So she was of course talking about publishing being a business. They want to make money. And so like I said in the pros, they're coming with a built-in audience, at least for that first book, because if they already like that fan fiction story, now they know that it's going to be changed because you have to take out the IP, but they're still like, if the gist of the story is the same, I still want to write that, I still want to support this author. So they have this built-in audience. But Victoria was saying that she feels like since they already come with a proven audience, that the publishers may be inclined to do less because they feel like they have to do less work, right? They have to do less marketing, maybe less editing, less all developmental edits, whatever edits to get it ready as you would a traditional book that is coming just original ideas from an author. And that could be very detrimental just to the story in general. And maybe it's just not as good as it could be if they took more time and had more eyes on it. But something else she was talking about, which I never thought of, was them not taking enough time with the story so they don't change enough. So they don't file off enough of the serial numbers and it's too close to the original intellectual property that the fan fiction was based on. And then that gets into murky waters if the author finds out of the original work and wants to sue. There's a big issue there, and I never thought about that. But publishing, as we have seen, and as I have talked about in other videos, where all of these different AI publishers and whatever want to pump out more books more quickly, it would make sense if more people are like, bam, this is a built-in audience, they already have the story, we just need to change some names around, blah, blah, blah. And it's more than changing names, right? And they're like, bam, let's put it out there. And so she was saying, of course, yes, the publisher would be named in a lawsuit, agent, whoever's involved, but the publisher, they have millions, if not billions of dollars and a team of attorneys ready to protect themselves, their names, and that they likely would leave the author out to dry. And then that author is the one who has to fall on the sword. And I never thought about that till she said that. I was like, wow, that makes sense. Because again, there are questions with these stories that are coming out this year. Like, how are you going to remove the IP for Manacled is Handmaid's Tale and Harry Potter from them and it still be a similar story? So I just thought that was really interesting, and I hadn't thought about that because just in general, even without these new publishers and the AI mess, just even the big five, I feel, and other people have said this, that they're rushing books. They're obviously not paying people what they're worth. People don't have enough time to devote to these stories. So we have all of these titles coming out. Now they are paying the art department because the covers look great. But I feel like so many new releases that I pick up, I'm reading. There's a great premise. Of course, the art is great. And luckily they are by more marginalized people from marginalized groups. But then you get into the story and this needed more time. This needed more world building or more development with the characters. And so if they're already doing that with an original story, I could see that happening when a story is coming in and you're like, well, we don't have to do much here. We just need to change the title, put a cute cover on it, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Now, this is not saying that this has happened or that any of those books that I mentioned coming out this year will be like that. She was just addressing that as a concern because fan fiction already exists in like this gray area, but it's a transformative work. You can't just take a book that you like and like literally copy and paste it and put it on AO3. It's taking the IP. So if you're talking about Star Wars and then you're like, I want to make this story between these two people, and you write your own story. Let's not even get into people using generative AI to write fan fiction. That doesn't make any sense. The fan is supposed to write the fan fiction. But anyway, we don't need any copyright lawsuits, though those are difficult to prove, she did say, and I have just heard this from previous things where people are like, is this book copying this one? It is very hard to prove copyright, but I think in an instance where the person, it depends, I guess, on their writing style and the process they go through. I would hope that they would start an entirely new document and rewrite the story, but who knows? Maybe they go through and like delete and try to change names. it could be something that if you cross the wrong author who's very litigious or, you know, just salty, there are a lot of authors who are very anti-fan fiction in general that could cause problems. It's me. It's me again. Sorry. So, things that I thought about again after I was recording the video was again about dark topics that are in the fanfics. Like, will they translate to traditionally published? Because that's a great thing about fan fiction, is you can do a lot of taboo things, write about a lot of topics that traditional publishers are usually not okay with, or they would be very, you know, toned down, much more mellow than they can be in a fan fiction, because you can really write just about anything in a fan fiction. And obviously with traditional publishers comes editors, and they're trying to be, you know, palatable for a wide audience, not just these niche people who are looking for it online. So especially with the two of these, Alchemized and Rose in Chains, the fanfic that they're being reworked from come with really dark topics. I wonder if how that will translate, I guess, into the new story. And I think this also makes sense that they're publishing more of these, especially fantasy ones based off of fantasy works, because of the rise of romantasy. So it makes sense, especially, you know, like enemies to lovers. That's the whole premise of a Hermione story, is enemies to lovers. So I'm just curious. I know romantasy is a big thing. I feel like the ones I've read, a majority of them, I'm very underwhelmed with. And just stories that market themselves as enemies to lovers in general really are never enemying enough, because, again, traditional publishing has to be really, really, you know, they work within these limits. Obviously, there are dark romances, but a lot of those authors tend to self-publish, indie publish those. And the ones that I'm talking about have been picked up by like major publishers. So that will be interesting. Also, like I said earlier, a lot of the ones that are very well known, like especially the Twilight ones that have fan fictions turned into a contemporary novel, or that they just used to write fan fictions and now write traditionally published books. A lot of those were modern AUs. So I think that makes that a lot easier than going from a heavy fantasy world, because then you have to take all of that out. Now you have to build your own world while trying to keep the story, I guess, the same. So those are just things that I wonder about, because I don't read modern AUs. That's not my jam. But I feel like that it would be easier if you are already writing in this kind of world and you're really just using the two characters to then change that to your own characters, instead of taking an entire world, magic system, all of that, and having to rewrite that. But that also could be a good thing, that you have to do so much rewriting that it gets very far away from the IP, and therefore does not put that person at risk of any, like, you know, copyright allegations. Maybe less great if you're a fan of the original IP and hoping to still like see some of that in the traditionally published work, but good on the author protecting themselves and basically creating their own story just inspired by the original IP. I feel like I'm talking in circles. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Bye. The other thing I wrote down that I guess is technically a con, I would say, will they be as good? Like, yes, in the fan fiction space, there are a lot of people who are really great writers. And again, some people who still write fan fiction and write published books. But will their stories be as good without the IP? Will it still hit the same? Because the beauty about fan fiction is you're already invested in this world, in these 2, 3, however many people that you're shipping. So will it be as good when it's changed, when you take out that backstory? Because that's another beauty of fan fiction. You don't have to build. You don't have to do much world building. I mean, you can. You don't have to do much world building and setting up all this stuff, because you're going into something you already know for the most part. So they don't have to do all of that legwork. So will it be as good when you're rewriting it as an original work? And like I said with the built-in fan base, okay, maybe for the first book, does that continue past that? If your fans are like, this isn't kind of what I really wanted, I'll just stick with their fan fiction. Are you able to build a new audience? Or is that more difficult? Like these are all hypothetical questions. I don't know. I wish all of the authors the best luck. I think it's amazing. There are still, again, Julie Soto loves Big K8. Olivia Blake has a lot of fan fictions that are still up on AO3. I just wonder if anyone who's in the fan fiction space and you know, noticing the ones that are coming out soon, if you've thought about any of these things, if you think like, is it a concern or is it not? Is it just great? You're just happy to see it, or do you worry about the future of fan fiction or about possible copyright issues? I would just love to know. So it's just something that's been on my mind as I have been back in the fan fiction space, at my big age. But I love it here. It's great. I'm never leaving. This damn purple pin, I just clicked and I got it on the fabric. Way to go, Jessica. Anyway, thank you for watching. Again, let me know your thoughts down below. Keep it cute, keep it respectful. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.